Thank you very much, and it's a great honour to be back here at UNE again, and it's a great honour to have this opportunity to pursue something which I actually have a real passion about. My issue with the destruction that wild dogs causes was long before I was the Minister for Agriculture. In fact, I remember writing an op-ed about this in the Canberra Times when I was the Shadow Minister for Water, what the relationship was between water and wild dogs. I'm not quite sure, but I made one. And the reason I did that is I was trying to broach the issue with people in an urban environment as to why this was an important issue and why we needed to do something about it. When I had the honour of basically taking the Prime Minister of Australia out west, it was another thing that I continued to pester him about. I said, look, I know that sometimes people get flippant about this, sometimes they'll try and make it a form of sort of parochialism or, yokels from the country talking about wild dogs like they are lions and cheetahs. But it really is important for us, especially out in the Western districts such as where Jim is. Our family has a place out near Ford's Crossing, which is up near Barrington. And I was seeing this common theme. Remember Lenore Johnson from Longreach saying to me when I came to the Senate for Queensland, well, what are you going to do about wild dogs? Because it's shutting down the whole of sheep production in Queensland. The whole of Western Queensland is shutting down. And it's because it's uncoordinated, there's no real game plan about how we deal with this problem. And we also have to dispense from our lexicon, from our dissertations, the idea that this is somehow the destruction of the dingo population. Of course, dingoes are part of the wild dog population, there's no doubt about that. But predominantly in the southeast areas, overwhelmingly, the genetic makeup is weighted towards domestic dogs. And so this is a problem that even if you have, and noting that the dingo itself is an introduced species, it wasn't here, it's not a marsupial. It came as the Asian dog, it's been here for what we believe 6 to 10,000 years. Hasn't been here from time immemorial. But even its genetic makeup is piece by piece becoming swamped by the genetic makeup of an introduced species for the last 200 years. So what are we to do? We can either work in isolation and the whole thing turns into chaos, because you'll have one person working on the eradication of dogs and the next one maybe not worrying about it, and of course that is not fixing anything. You may as well go and throw your money in the river if that's what you wish to do. You have to have a decisive plan, and there has to be a coordination. I was very much interested in recent times where they put a collar on one between Morven and Charlton, so I'm told, and when they rang the person up west of Moree, between Moree and Colorado, right, and said, we've tracked this dog now, I think we'll destroy it, the person just didn't believe them. We don't have one. I said, you most certainly do. You most certainly do. Or the satellite is lying to us. And anyway, as they got access to it, they found it and shot it. And by that point, that dog had a bitching code, and so we knew that there was a whole range of problems associated with this. Now that's a mighty range to go from that area down. Dogs do not respect state borders. They do not respect property borders. They do not follow rules of the road. They do not care about the police. They do not follow anything. Another thing we have to understand is that we've got to get into the ethos of urban areas. Is that this is something that is now up against them. Mount Cootha in Brisbane, they're having problems with wild dogs. They're butting up against urban and peri-urban areas. And if a dog is hungry, a dog will eat what a dog will eat, whatever is there. Whether it's a pest, they also have the capacity for the destruction of other dogs, domestic dogs. We're seeing that. And I had one guy telling me he was out in the barrier fence, he was in a tent, and to the best of his belief that he was in the predation phase of the wild dogs there, because he said it was unerring. I definitely felt that they were watching me, and it was beyond curiosity as to what they had. So this also means that now the University of New England has a great opportunity to be at the forefront of another centre of excellence, to do something that is clever. To do something that's clever in the coordination of the destruction, or at least the control as much as we can, of wild dogs. During the last drought package, by reason of having the Prime Minister on side, I managed to get $10 million put aside for pest eradication. And the Prime Minister himself obviously started running off my words and started saying the issue was predominantly wild dogs. Why? Because you people kept on out in the Western District saying, if you want to help us, deal with this problem. For this program alone, we've got $280,000 in this program alone, which is important, so that we can start really getting some heavy firepower into how we do it. We also got to realise that it's not just sheep. I remember, when I was with QIDC, I remember weaning rates at Kingaroy, around Nanango, was going down as low as 35 to 40% by reason of incursion of wild dogs in that area against the forests. In the tablelands area and against the forest here, we also have a massive problem, especially calving time with wild dogs. Now, soon it'll be autumn, and all of a sudden this is a good time to plant in winter. Soon as autumn, we'll start going into the new whelping phase, and there'll be another round of litters on the ground. So this is going to be something that I have a genuine interest in. As Minister for Agriculture for this nation, it is a program that I really want to see sort of a delivery of something that I can build on, so that if by chance and by the grace of the Australian people we get another term of government, and polls that doesn't look likely. But if that was to happen, there's a program that we can follow through. We have to have stringency of baits, we have to have a proper targeted mechanism, we have to make sure that it's holistic. Otherwise what we'll get is programs where people just say, well, I'll put 3 hot wires around my property and I'll bait inside my property, and that'll be it. But that's not eradicating wild dogs, that's just looking after yourself. We have to get back to a point where we have a holistic campaign across a wide area of moving them back. And we have done it before. When I grew up at Danglomar, in the woolshed, were all wild dog traps. And they were big, nasty little bits of gear. But that meant there were wild dogs there. When I grew up, we never saw a wild dog. It was never there. But you see them now. And the other big myth that people have is the myth of there is a wild dog on my place. No, there's not. There is a one that you saw. They don't happen by, it's not the miraculous conception. There'll be another dog around somewhere else. And so if you've got one, you've got many. You just can see one. And it's always the biggest surprise when you break open a log and show people a litter and say, well, I'll show you some more wild dogs because I just saw that bitch come out of that log. Watch this. You break open a log and say, there's litter. And this is, so it's going to be great to have my alumni at the University of New England at the forefront of this process. I think there's not a more appropriate place around Boss Creek, around Dorrigo, in that Tyringham, Hanarnick area. Big problems with wild dogs in their area. People like to inform you of the problem I have by hanging them off their sign to their property. Why they do that, God knows. But it's very pertinent to this area as well. So I'm glad to call this program open, or whatever you have to do. It is something that I look forward to hearing back from you about how it's going. I'm looking forward to having a discussion with as many as possible about how it works in your area. I'll do my part to try and make sure we see a continuous